Welcome to the Wayland Wisdom Hub, your go-to destination for unlocking financial, operational, and business insights. I'm Jacob Corright, your host and guide through the stormy and often confusing waters of accounting, tax, audit, business management, and operations. Today I have with me Laurie Morgan, a dentist and instructional designer who has turned expert consultant for the healthcare and dental industry. Laurie is well ingrained in the latest trends, business operations, management, and insurance. Today, Laurie will be discussing the state of dentistry. Laurie?
Hey Jake, it's nice to be here with you, and I'm telling you, I've sure been in the trenches with dentistry. I understand what these guys are facing. These ladies and gentlemen are out there every day slogging it out. It isn't easy. Dentists are not well loved. So, we're the first people that you meet at the party that people say to you, I don't like going to the dentist. And then they always qualify it. Well, it's not you. I don't like going to the dentist. So I feel like dentists get a black eye. I mean, we do well with respect polls, but, it's tough. It's tough to get people to listen to what you have to say, to trust you. Because, we're always in the business of selling something that benefits us. And that's tough. It's tough to sell something. Like the car salesman, he gets a commission, and so he wants to push that car on you. And we're the same way in a sense. We have this stuff we know you need, and it's good for you, and it's just really hard to start those conversations. So it's really good to work with a firm like Wayland where you're not just about producing numbers for people, but you're interested in getting up in their business and helping them understand how to run their business better.
Well, as one of those people that does not like the dentist too much.
I know.
Just not a fan.
It's not me, right? It's not me, it's you.
It's not you. I just don't want anyone in my mouth. I'm sorry. But coming from a dentist perspective, what are some of the issues that they're dealing with? What were the stressors in your life when you were practicing?
Well, we recently sold our practice, so up until about a year ago, I was facing all of these same stressors, and I'll have to say one of the worst stressors, and it's just getting worse, is the hygiene situation. People are desperate for hygiene. I read a statistic it was a statistic that was given in an October issue of a dental magazine, and it said that 12% of the hygiene workforce exited during COVID. So it's awful. We do get calls at Wayland, and people are desperate. If you know of any hygiene students or hygienists that are looking for jobs, so that's kind of stunning. Especially because we have to pay hygienists so much. So they always are fetching a high price. I'm not saying they're not worth it. Hygiene is a good producer for your practice, but it is really hard to justify sometimes the length of time. I need 50 minutes. And you're like, well, there's not very much calculus. It's a kid. I still need 40 minutes. It's a kid. And they're very stringent. A lot of times hygienists will get in their head, I need a certain amount of time. And it's tough. It's tough to pay them, a lot of money, especially when you run deals. Like if your office runs deals where you're like pro fee and exam and x-rays for $50 and you're paying your hygienists, $42 or $43. By the time you set the patient in the chair, put the bib on them, get the pro fee paste, get the disposable cups, all the things that goes with that, all the x-rays, all that stuff, it doesn't make sense. And it's really hard when you have so few hygienists that it drives the rate of pay up almost to the point that dentists can't afford to have that many hygienists. But yet, if you shut down your hygiene department, that's where your work comes from. You go in there and you examine the patient, and that's where you find your work. So it's kind of a catch-22. It's a tough time for dentists, especially because of staffing. I just feel like that's probably number one right now. And then second to that, I think, would be cost. It's expensive with inflation. I mean, who knew that we would have just the rising costs? We had done so well for about 12 years. I think dentistry did really well with the costs, and now it feels like that's off of the charts. I mean,
now are we talking cost of goods purchased for the practice itself?
Yeah, absolutely,
or
absolutely.
Treatments?
Yeah, the goods that you purchase for patient treatment. Everything's so much more expensive, and it's harder to get. It's just the whole cycle is different. We used to place orders and we could get those in a couple days delivered, they're out of stuff now, and it's just a different situation than we enjoyed early in our practice. We didn't have any problems like that. I mean, you could almost literally decide you wanted it today, and by Friday it'd be there if it's Tuesday or Wednesday. So it's a little bit different that way as well. There's a lot of stressors with that, and then of course that drives your overhead up. And then when your overhead's up and your staffing is short and you need to produce, it's very stressful out there right now to be a healthcare professional, especially in dentistry where the overhead is so high. I mean, it averages in the 60% of overhead, and that has to just get worse and worse until hopefully inflation turns around and it comes back down to earth.
And here's hoping.
Yeah, here's hoping, because I can't buy groceries either, which I also need.
Groceries would be nice.
Groceries are great.
Groceries are great, you know? Okay, so we talked hygienist. Is there any other hiring concerns that most people are having right now? Front office, anything like that? Or is it really hygienist the big one?
Yeah, I heard that was trickling down. I heard it was trickling down into assistant pools. And, I'll have to be honest, a lot of times I looked for an assistants, not just the ones that were trained. I didn't just go to that pool. I mean, those are great, right? They've been to a dental assisting program, so they have some basic knowledge of what's going on, and that's awesome. But there are times that I picked out people that were in other professions that I noticed that they had good people skills, and I would just train them alongside. I had a couple really good success rates with that, where I had some of the best assistants I had were self-trained. On the flip side, I had some that were, trained by a school, and they were awesome as well. I guess my admonition would be, don't just go one direction when you're, look for different ways to find help. If you can't, find them already trained in assisting, be willing to train them.
Interesting.
I've even helped some people that were in dental assisting that needed to just pass radiology type things. I helped them get to the point where they could pass that radiology exam, because you have to have that to be able to take x-rays. You need that certification. So think outside the box on that. If same with front desk. She doesn't necessarily have to have a lot of office skill, or he doesn't have to have a lot of office skill. If he has great people skills, you can probably train them to speak the speak you want to the patients. So, we found people I found a person who was a young lady once who was going to law school, and she needed a nice part-time job. And she was a great front desk assistant. She was awesome at what she did because she had, she was educated. She had a lot of people skills. She was a gregarious person. She was a studious person. She was always helping people. And she just naturally fit into that role of front desk. She understood business a little bit. She was clever. So I guess, I would think outside the box. I would still do that today. I would find people, I think, and just look around for ways to help them get into my system.
People.
Yeah, invest in the person. And again, we've had some great successes with that.
Interesting. Well, on the subject of investing, I understand when it comes to dentistry, it's usually a long haul. You're going through school, it's expensive, and then as soon as you go out, you're either interested in buying a practice or moving into a role where you can kind of work alongside, get some years before moving into more of a upper position. When it comes to that buying, selling, what's your take on it? What do you need to look at?
Well, if I was coming out now with a debt package, I read recently that the statistic was now up at $300,000. Just a few years ago, when I trained residents at OSU, it was in the 240s. So there again,
what are we talking here?
Debt, student debt.
Oh, wow.
$300,000 coming out of debt. Yeah, we had some residents who had friends, not at our residency, but who had friends who were in the 700,000s. And I've been talking to some bankers recently about how does that play when you go to the bank. I need a loan, and they're like, you have had a lot of loans, and that you have no collateral, and how that debt plays into how the bank looks at you. And his advice to me when I spoke to this specific banker, and this was just last week, so he was very, very energetic, let's say, almost to the point of passionate, you might say, about his concerns about dentists. He said it's not like it used to be where people would come out of school, you had your degree, and that was enough to get you a loan. His suggestion was the bank was very much more amenable to people who were buying into a practice or working at a practice as an associate for a few years. And then when you come and say, I want to buy that practice, you have all these numbers that go with that practice, right? And you've been working in it. So it's not the same as saying, I think if I go into this practice I'm buying, I'll do this. You actually have been doing that in that practice for a year or two. So it's not make-believe anymore to the bank. It's actually like we have some actual numbers of how I've produced. You're already bonding with that patient population. So when the new owner, or as the new owner, when the old owner leaves, the seller leaves, you've got to have that. A buyer wants to know for sure that the patients are, as many as possible, are going to hook onto him and get sticky with him or her, not go, well, I just came here because I love Dr. So-and-so. Now he's gone, I'm moving to a practice that's closer to my work or whatever. You want those patients to be sticky to you. And one of the ways to do that is you get in there and you're seen around there and you're not the new guy or the new girl. You're the person that's been there as an associate for a while. And I thought that was really great advice. It's not like we didn't know that, but I just thought from an outside perspective, where you're like, I would think that would be a good idea, but this is a business professional, a banker who's got years of experience saying, we're looking for people who have already kind of invested in that business, and now they're coming to us looking for loans, and we're just more likely to say your numbers make sense, and we're more likely to take a risk on you, even though you have high student debt. But, I would say younger students, people who are ready to graduate out of dental school or who are residents ready to get out of a residency program, do all you can now to start just getting rid of that personal debt. Make your personal debt picture as happy as it can be.
And on that front, I do have another question for you. So it sounds like right now probably the best strategy, at least for loan management and being able to get into ownership of a practice, is to, holistically work through a practice and kind of gain your way up and gain that collateral. Now, if you are a resident or a senior in college, is there any practical ways to start building those connections to get said, association?
When I graduated, my husband and I were both dentists, and I felt like I had a security blanket. I hate to tell you this, Jake, because you go to the dentist and you probably don't know how long they've been practicing, but new dentists are super slow. In dental school, sometimes we'll see 2 patients a day. We see one in the morning and one in the afternoon. And we see them over and over and over. So it's not like we see them and we're done with that. Often we have to see them multiple times for the same procedure. And, the pace of a dental office is a lot faster than that. Plus you got to get up and check hygiene. So, if I was going to go into practice, I would be looking at opportunities to, even now, residents and students are still in school for a few months. I'd be looking at opportunities and ways to go watch a practitioner in practice. I'd be spending, if I get off Friday afternoon or Saturday offices that are open on Saturday, I would be shadowing people and asking questions just like crazy. Most of these residents or students probably have access to a bank of some sort. Even if you're lowball at this point and you're like, I just have a checking account and I'm with your bank, they have business advisors there. They have business people there who are willing to talk to people to help them make connections. Obviously they get money when they sell a loan. They want to make loans. They just need people that will make it through underwriting and come out the other end with the ability to get a loan. So I would be looking into stuff like that. If I was going to start a practice, I'd be looking into SBA, Small Business Association, and making connections there. Usually those kinds of places, which they are lenders, they're very willing to give you information. They have information about the management of debt and so forth. I'd also be talking to people who your own dentists, people that are getting ready to get out of their practice or who are older, and you might make a connection there. I've heard of people that actually start dental school because they were an assistant in someone's practice, and all along their idea has been to go back to that practice and serve that doctor a little bit. And it's time to reforge those connections and make sure that you meet up with those people that were instrumental in helping you get in school. dental societies, the ODA, the ADA, they have practice broker sites. They have opportunities for you to find employment. So all those sites, you should just start looking at those now. If I was coming out now, I would be looking at those sites. And then finally, I think this is huge, resume building. I mean, you just, you get so many resumes when you're looking for an associate or something. You really have to have a way to distinguish one person from another.
Right.
So I would definitely be looking, most schools, even in undergrad, right, they have places where you can go and get some help with a resume building, or even online stuff. There's so much stuff now. You should just totally invest in spending time trying to get that you'd be surprised at how, if you're thinking in the right way, a person who's helping you build a resume can take experiences that you think don't apply, things that you've been volunteering at, or things that you think, well, that would never apply to help me get a job. And you'd be surprised at what that adds if you just sit down and think of it in a different way. And that's what people who are used to helping people get jobs are, that's their stock and trade. They do that every day. They can definitely help you get tips.
Right. Well, in that same vein, I will say I recently attended a conference, and during it they were talking about how a lot of big hiring firms are now using AI to farther select and weed out people. And they're doing it in a format of a questionnaire and also having applicants submit a video or some sort. So I would say I'm a big AI guy, as you know.
I know you are, Jacob.
Big AI guy. So I would say utilize
trying to
the
replace
technology
me all
in
the
front of
time
you.
with AI.
Hey, all I'm saying is utilize new technology. It's not going away, so anytime you can kind of, change even the structure of a resume or of a document to seem more professional and really convey what you're trying to go for, I'm all about that.
Well, and one thing that does do for you is it helps you, already when you're in school and you're getting ready to graduate, you're starting to get like, well, I would never do that. Oh, I would think of that this way. You should start looking at technologies for your practice management. Why not be looking at those types of technologies and comparing, like, would I like this product over that product? Start investing some time in finding labs. Start looking around. I mean, I used to drive around. When we bought our second practice, this is a funny story. I had small kids, and I would load them up in the car when it was nap time, and I would drive all over looking, because they were sleeping in the car, and I would just drive to different locations and kind of imagine places where they were building lots of houses or apartments, and try to imagine, like, what's the street like? What's the busyness like on the street? How many dentists are on the street? Do I see healthcare facilities going up? Even down to, there are locations that I wouldn't practice just because I don't like what's next door. That might be just me, but I would look around and be like, I don't want to practice next door to a fast food restaurant.
Right.
It just little silly things like that. I really think that dreaming about like what my vision for practice would be.
Right. Especially if you're buying.
Right. If you're
or
gonna
building yourself.
Yeah, either one. You're looking
Yeah.
at that going, what's my vision for a practice? What kinds of things, how would I want to be perceived in the community? What kinds of things can I get involved in? Can I see myself, looking around at these people, looking around at these businesses? Can I see myself as part of this business community? And then obviously, I'm going to push this because, this is near and dear to my heart. Start thinking about looking into how can I be successful at business? What are my advisors? Like, I need an accountant, I need an attorney. Looking for people who are working in that space already,
Right.
that are successful. Start asking around, asking professors. Do you know of people that do this kind of work? Or someone that can look at a contract for me. Who do you know that they might have people that they know already that look at contracts and stuff, and this is something you're going to have to do. You're going to enter into a contract, whether you buy or build. You're going to enter into some kind of contract, either with a professional firm that's going to build for you, so you need to understand how that goes. And if you're just going to buy a practice, you're going to need to understand contracts there and whether that's a fair price for you. And looking at just opportunities. There are lots of opportunities in dentistry. Just lots.
Well, going on from that, if you were restarting from scratch, going through school, about to get out your residency or your senior in college, what would be your go-to, like, I need to understand at least this portion of business before going into this will be instrumental in having a successful career? Where would you start?
Oh, I think I would start by looking at how a business works, understanding what a liability is for a business, understanding what it's like. You can understand what a depreciation is, an amortization, because those are all things that happen with your loan, right? You're going to experience amortization with your supply, or not your supplies, your equipment. With your equipment, you're going to be looking at depreciation. If you understand those kinds of things, understand what expenses are, what kinds of expenses I'm going to have, how fast do I have to pay for those things, what's it like to have, getting supplies. Where do I get supplies? How do I know if I should buy into one of these clubs where, you get a discount or whatever? Looking at things like that and understanding the kinds of things you'll be buying. Compliance is crazy. I'm telling you, if you spent just, 3 weeks just trying to go, I'm going to look at all the different compliance issues, like the ones that are for the state dental board, the ones that are for OSHA, which is a more national thing, the ones for x-ray, and the ones for the way we get rid of old amalgam. And if you have a manual processing unit as an x-ray kind of situation, how you have to service that water before you release it into the water supply. What about sharps? What do I do with all that? If you just start investigating, making a list of all the different things at school that you use. For example, you're going to do an endodontic procedure. You get out of your kit all these different things. If you just take a look at all that and write that down for a day or two, and then you can go, where will I get all this? Where did these people get this? How do I know? In school, you're not even exposed to a lot of systems. I tell you, a great thing to do is find a sales rep. Just call. You just call and say, look, if I wanted to buy this endodontic system, how would I get this? They'll have somebody out there who can show you how this works, what it costs. They'll show you the value it's going to be to your practice. How long before you get the return on your investment? How many patients do you have to see? Because there's so many products that you're not exposed to in a school situation that are out there that are helpful to dentists. And you can just start weeding through that now. It's going to be winter in Ohio, so there's not much else to do. You might as well get busy planning your future.
I'll say on a person who's far removed from dentistry, marketing side, the cognitive overload just from understanding.
It hurts, doesn't it, Jake? It hurts.
It hurts, Laurie. It does. And it kind of brings me back to the whole idea of the hive. A hive has to work together. So you need professionals and you need tools within your network that make your life easier, because day to day, I'm sure a dentist is primarily worried about what's going on in their patient's mouth. And you need business understanding, but you also just need to have people on your team or people that you push work out for that can be instrumental in your success. Am I right in that vein?
You need your go-to. You need your go-tos, because you have to have those key people in place. You cannot manage all. We talk about working in your business instead of on your business, and I'm working on a blog post right now, Jake, and I was just thinking it's so ridiculous that as a dentist you're like, but what else am I going to do? I have to work in my business. I'm the producer. I have other producers in the office, but you talk about people who can't. If you're a baker, you can teach someone to bake that cookie or that donut or that cake. And if you make keys, you can teach somebody to do that. But when you're the dentist, you are in your business so bad that you can't even look up sometimes. And I think that's the real caution. So many times working in your business, you just get this tunnel vision and you just constantly shoot the arrow at the target, and you don't really even line the arrow up anymore because you don't feel like you have time to sit and think about, how do I do this best? How do I do this fastest? How do I do it with good efficiency, but yet also be, not penny pinching, helping the patient, making sure that I'm compliant with things, making sure that I explain things well and I'm not liable for what I said or did. All these issues. And at the same time, we're saying, and you need to be a businessman. And you do. I can't make that better for you. Like, I can't make that softened. You have to be a businessman. And all I can say is if you get key people in place and you get people who are key advisors in place and start to ask questions, not just expect documents. It's so common for dentists to feel like, oh, my accountant just gives me documents. My attorney just does, contracts for me for workers or whatever. You really need to understand and spend some time with those people. It's almost like you need to work on your business. And to do that, you're going to have to tell yourself, look, my production goals are goals. They can't drive me. I have to be first a human being. I have to be able to be with my family, my friends, and things that are important to me. I have to be able to be rested and have a quality of life, right? Time for myself to do things that need done. But I also need to make sure that I run a successful business because, Jake, I can't tell you how awful it is to see people work their whole lives and, they're making an income, and then when it's time to get rid of that business, it doesn't have the value they think they did. And it can be prevented. It doesn't take that much time. It just needs to be scheduled in. Just like we ask our patients, hey, can you schedule your 6-month appointment? Because what can go on in your mouth in 6 months? You don't know, but we do know. And we are here to try to help you not have that happen to you. We want the good thing to happen to you. We want our patients to be like on autopilot where we see them, we visit with them, and they go years and years and never have a need unless there's like an accident or a trauma. And we're all up in that. That's what we want for our patients. And in the same way when dentists get a patient who, like you just had cavities, Jake, let's not lie about it. I'm surprised you're even in the same room with me. But you just had cavities and you're on a different pathway. You're like, I'm going to floss better because you're paying for those cavities, You're paying for being young.
That's for sure.
And stupid, but that's okay. Yeah, young and stupid.
Enjoying my sweets.
And enjoying that yummy sweet. Exactly. And I'm all up in that, but brush your teeth, man. And now you're like, well, okay, how am I going to prevent this from happening? And your dentist is your partner, right? She's like, hey, Jake, do this, and your teeth won't rot like that anymore. And we're all up in that. And once you get on that pathway, I can't tell you how, and dentists know, it's so gratifying to see somebody who's come through kind of an ick phase in their dental health, and now they're on the straight and narrow, and they're not scared to come to the dentist. They don't dread it. They're not worried about the financing of it because so little happens in their dental life now, and they know what to eat and what not to eat, and they know how to take care of those teeth. They've protected that investment. And I'm telling you, it's the same way in business. At first, you're like, this is insurmountable. I can't do it. But you can do it. And when you do it, it's just like that dental patient who's learned how to take care of themselves. When you learn how to take care of your business, it's a 6-month visit with your accountant, a 3-month visit with your accountant, and you're just finding out ways to improve your business. You're taking the pulse on tax. You're taking the pulse on what depreciations are going to be allowed this year. You're taking the pulse on whether or not you can hire a new associate or a new employee. Do you have the, and once you get on the straight and narrow with business, it's the same way. It'll take care of itself, and you can work at your business, not just in your business, and your quality of life is going to go way up because there's not going to be that many surprises because you're paying attention. Just like our dental patients, we're not expecting them to get surprises in their mouth unless there's a trauma. Same way, once you get your business running, it's not autopilot, but it's certainly manageable. And I just got to tell you, we're all here at Wayland to help. If we can help, we want to help.
Yeah, well, it's obvious your passion for the field and what you're doing.
And for your dental hygiene. My passion for your dental hygiene.
My personal dental life.
Yes, it helps the dentist and it helps you, Jake. It helps everybody because that's the kind of girl I am. I help everybody.
Just extremely helpful.
I'm just helpful.
Well, Laurie, thank you for coming and joining me today. Look forward to future conversations.
Yeah.
And if any of our listeners ever care to have a conversation with Laurie, you can find her contact information on the Wayland page. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jake.